a bulletin board reserved for such announcements, and by filing of said notice with the Borough Clerk of the Borough of Manville, formal action may be taken at this meeting.
Roll call.
Roll call, Bridgewater, Franklin,
Present.
Hillsborough, Manville, Millstone, Montgomery, Rocky Hill, Somerville, Southbound Brook, Somerset County.
We have the representative representing Carl.
Yes.
Okay.
You're for Somerset, yeah.
All right. We have a quorum. All right. Will everybody please stand for the flag salute and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Introductions. This is once again, we remind everybody the meetings do start at 7 o'clock, and we sent out the calendar at the last meeting where the meetings will be at. They'll be out throughout the county, and they all start at 7 o'clock. Just a quick reminder, at the beginning of this meeting, next meeting in March will be March 16th, and it will be at the RVCC at 9 o'clock. It will be starting. The subcommittee meetings, we do have the Wednesday reserved, the third Wednesday of the month, reserved for anybody who needs a committee meeting, like for finance or for treasury or for secretary or legislative. We have Angelo Cordino was good enough to allow us to use his office at the third Wednesday of every month. So if we need him, we'll just contact Angelo, contact me, and I'll tell him, and we'll meet there. Usually it's at 6 o'clock, the meeting we have there. Once again, we have 2 email accounts for the RMFCC, Manville NJ org, and rmrfccgmail.com. I checked those, and the Facebook. So those are the contact areas and the next meetings. We're going to go a little out of order today. The first thing I want to do is John Clyde, who is from Franklin, would like to have a minute of our time to say something.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the residents, manager, mayor, and council of Franklin, I want to welcome everybody to our town tonight. We're proud and eager to be an active part of this process. It's critically important to Central Jersey. And we join with our brothers and sisters in Manville and up and down the valley in actively seeking a solution to these problems. So thank you all for coming across the river tonight and being with us. I also wanted to just recognize, in addition to Scott and myself, we have with us tonight Councilman Jim Vassanella, who is our liaison to the committee, and also my good friend in the back, Dr. Phil Kramer, who represents both Councilman Vassanella and Councilman Kramer represent areas that are along either the Millstone Valley or the Raritan Valley, a significant portion of the town. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and thank you for hosting us. It's on. I appreciate it. One of our goals this year was to make sure that we had meetings throughout the Raritan River Basin and dealing with the commission, and this is our first one outside of the Manville area for this year. And it's a beautiful place, and I appreciate it tremendously. And thank you for having us. It's a pleasure coming here and actually having recorded. It's fantastic. We're going to add a little bit of the audio agenda. We're going to have we have a guest today from the Somerset County. She was good enough. She's the grant coordinator, Denise Cotula, and she's the grant coordinator for Somerset County. She was good enough to come, and she's going to do a little presentation for us because one of our 3 areas that we're focusing on, of course, one is to get the Army Corps of Engineer funding, the other is education, and the third is to have a small impact area that we can actually raise grant money and hopefully impact the people who are being hit by these floods and to help them. We're looking at many things. Last year we tried to do a small grant to help us and try to get some funding towards us. We were not successful last year, but we went after it. This year we're going to be a little bit more aggressive. We actually have money in our budget this year to get a grant writer and try to go after some grants that we could help with flood mediation, the use of how to open fields, how to prevent flooding, how to water runoff. Also, areas that will help the commission run better. Simple things like that. So, Denise, if you will, and thank you for coming. I appreciate it tremendously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the invitation to be here. I do have a short PowerPoint presentation.
If you could do me a favor, grab the mic.
Copies of handouts.
Oh, whatever you think.
This is very American Idol-ish. And I don't normally do this, so excuse me if I don't talk loudly enough. All right, so again, thank you for inviting me. And I wanted to give a quick overview on grants. If you're looking for me to identify very specific grants for you to apply for starting tomorrow, I'm sorry to say that that's not what's part of this presentation, and there's reasons why I'm not going to be doing that tonight. I would love to have those conversations with you at a later point in time. So I'll just quickly go through this. I would be doing my colleagues in the grants field a disservice if I didn't start off with step one here, and which is to go over, are you grant ready? Those of us in the grants field professionally spend a lot of time with either small local governments or if you're a consultant, you tend to spend a lot of time with nonprofit organizations. And many times they come to you and they say, the key to our success and survival is to get grants. And they want to hang their entire operations on just a grant or a couple grants. It's very hard to survive that way. And many of us have started taking a step back and working with these organizations to get them grant ready first. So what does that mean? And when you talk about grants, we're talking about more than just submitting proposals here. People will use the term the 3 R's, and forgive the last R, it's not really an R, but we like to say things like this. Our first R is relationships, and if you're talking about pursuing non-public funding sources, relationships are the key to success there. They also don't hurt in the public arena as well. You can say, how can I develop a relationship with somebody at the NJDEP? It can be done. It's not as easy in the private as it is in the private sector funding arena, but it can be done. The second R is research, and successful grant writing involves a tremendous amount of research. Understanding what your own needs are, what you want to do, and then finding what matches those needs. And then the third R is writing, and honestly, I believe that's the easiest part of the whole piece of this. If you do the first 2 steps correctly, the writing is simple. All right, when we talk about being grant ready, many times we'll share a checklist with organizations and we'll say, here's a list of things that you're going to need to submit a grant. And it's a very long list. It goes on to the next slide. Some of the things would not pertain to this type of an organization. I'm assuming you're not a 501c3. You're probably not going to do that. You're going to exist as a commission under public entities, I'm assuming.
We do have a tax ID.
Okay. But you're not nonprofit tax exempt.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So that wouldn't apply. But if some point in time you're ready to do an annual report, you would want to make sure you have copies of that kind of stuff. If you're looking at federal funding, you're going to need a DUNS number. There's just several things that you're going to need. And when we share this list with folks in the nonprofit arena and even in local government, they go, wow, that's a lot of information. Having all of this information assembled ahead of time can help you when you suddenly find out that you need to get a proposal submitted in 30 days. And a lot of this may be needed as additional documentation. Particularly for anybody applying for federal dollars, you have to be registered with grants.gov. That can take a while. If you're a public entity and you haven't done that before, it can take up to about 30 days to get registered through that system, which also involves registering through SAM. We have tons of acronyms in government, and SAM is the System for Award Management. Basically, if you're not registered in SAM, they can't get the money to you. So that's an important step. I won't spend much more time on getting grant ready, but just keep that in mind that there's a lot of preparation work that goes into this before you're actually able to write and submit something. Additional things to consider. Take a look at what the priority is of your organization And I use the term avoid mission drift. And what is mission drift? That's somebody saying, well, we found a grant, and it's not really quite what we need it to be, but it's a grant, and we should apply for it anyway. That's really not recommended. Stick to what your focus is. Getting that grant that doesn't really fit your need could be a giant waste of time. What if you're funded? Okay, that's a good thing. But then now you're implementing a program or a project, and now there's another grant opportunity. Do you have the time to apply for the second grant opportunity that's really more appropriate for you when now you're trying to deal with the first grant that really isn't what you want to do? And I will just say this for those of you in government, you probably know this, but this is a public meeting, and we have people here who may not understand that grants can never be considered free money. There's always strings attached to them, and there's costs involved. And it involves a careful analysis of, what's going to be the return on investment for this funding. Just to give you a little bit of background, the county receives anywhere in the neighborhood of $30 to $50 million in grants in any given year. And for the most part, those are good things. But 20 years doing this has taught me that not every grant's a good grant to go after, and there are some that we will no longer go after anymore because the reporting requirements are so onerous for the amount of money that we get. It's just really not worth it. And I know that sounds strange, but we have to think about that in the context of managing grants over the long term. All right, back to this slide. Project ownership. Things need to be a team effort, and especially with a group like this where you are a team, you're all representing different communities and the county. Just make sure that everybody's on board and everybody's involved in the process. I think you'll be more successful that way. This also has to go along with the fact that you don't want somebody solely writing a grant. You want it to be a team effort. You'll get a better product that way. And particularly if you also, you want to involve the people who are going to be implementing the grant if it is awarded. The last thing you want to do is, to have somebody else write something. It gets awarded, thank goodness. You hand it off to somebody else, and they were never involved in the process, and they're aware that this really isn't going to work well for us. It should have been planned differently. So involve more people. The next one is organizational readiness to undertake your project. By carefully planning and thinking about things, it works better in the long run. You're more successful in an application, and when you actually are awarded and you have to implement it, it's much easier to do. You're able to provide data and be successful. Funders' priorities. I kind of think of this as like Match.com, right? If you're single and you're looking for somebody, you want to be compatible with them. It's the same way with grants and funders. What we want to do, we want to be matched with the funders' priorities. We need a good fit there. Okay. The other thing I just wanted to add, well, get that in a minute. Evaluation and sustainability. These are important factors in developing any kind of good grant application. Funders want to see what is your evaluation plan, how do you know if you'll be successful, and how do you sustain it afterwards. The days of grant funding continuing on and on and on are long gone. I mean, at least 10, 15 years ago. You get a grant now, sometimes it's just one and done. So at the county level, we look really strongly at that because we don't want to start a new program or initiative if we can't figure out a way to fund it in the second year. It's hard to stop something that people like, right? Just because the funding's gone. Okay. In addition to that, people like to invest in things that are going to be successful, and grant funders are no different. So if you can present a good evaluation and sustainability plan at the outset, you're more likely to be funded. And how do you do that? It involves a lot of thinking before you actually write the application to develop that. Now, particularly for this group, because you're a commission, one of the questions that would come to my mind would be, who's the leader? Who's taking the lead on this? Is it going to be one of the towns applying on behalf of the others? Somebody needs to take the lead. Who's going to be the fiscal agent? Who's going to accept the money and deal with all the financial stuff with the federal government in particular or the state. Who's going to be responsible for submitting financial status reports? Those have to be done, generally on a quarterly basis. Who's going to monitor the project activities and submit progress reports? And who's going to document time and effort and match? Time and effort is your staff time that's involved working on the grant, whether they're paid directly by the grant funds or they're not, and you're using their time as matching funds. That has to be documented. And in the field of grants management, that's one of the things that auditors look at first. They know that people are weak on documenting time and effort. How much time did this employee spend on this activity? And how does that correlate to what you asked for reimbursement for, or how much you've tried to document in matching funds? And if you've got people from multiple jurisdictions, that could be a challenge. It's one of those things to think about in advance. Okay. My step 2, and if you're interested, there's actually only 3 steps here. I've tried to shorten this quite a bit. Step 2, where's the money? I figured at this point in time it might be a good idea to define what a grant is. A grant is a sum of money given by an organization, especially a government, for a particular purpose. And that last part is very important. You don't just get grant dollars and do with them what you want. It's always for a particular purpose, and you're held accountable to that. If you said you were going to do X, Y, and Z in your application, after you get the grant, you need to do X, Y, and Z, not A, B, and C, unless that's been approved and discussed with the funder. It is possible to change budgets and things, but you just can't do it on your own and assume that you, once you got the money, you're good. And again, for those who may not be familiar, grants are generally done on a reimbursement basis. So you're putting out your own funds first and then waiting for reimbursement after you submit documentation. Grant funds come from public and non-public sources. Public sources include the federal government, the state government, and local government, which includes counties and municipalities or cities. Non-public sources are corporate giving programs, community foundations, and private foundations. Okay. I wanted to kind of look at some of the trends that we're seeing in grants, and these are public sector trends right now. Those of you who work in local government know that the County of Somerset used to give out a number of small grants for various things. We've gotten away from that, haven't we? And there's reasons why. We need to cut our costs. We need to reduce our budget. We don't have the ability to do that anymore. Same thing with state funds. The state's under just as much fiscal pressure as any other level of government. And they also have the feds breathing down their backs too. So don't look for a lot of money at the state level. At the federal level, if you've just happened to glance at the newspaper or heard a snippet of news lately, you know that things at the federal level are not good either. The sequester's coming. We've been warned that some of our current grants will be, in fiscal year 13, could be reduced by about 10% or so. So things aren't good at the federal level either. There are fewer federal opportunities today than there have been in the past. If you just look at the federal budget, domestic discretionary spending is down and mandatory spending is up. And discretionary spending is where we get our grant dollars from. Another point is that many federal opportunities now require a very high level of organizational management practices, including extensive evaluation and excellent staffing and governance plans. So not only are things more competitive, but you really have to be top-notch to compete at the federal level these days. So federal funds are often out of reach of many organizations. This may be difficult to read. I don't expect you to read these numbers, but I went on the usaspending.gov website, and this is a federal website that tracks grants and other federal funds through either contracts, loans, or other sources that go out to grantees like us. So over the last 11 years, you can see the chart on the left, what's been available at the national level for grants was fairly steady for the first 6 years, and then you see a sharp uptick. That was in the year 2008, and that was due to the federal stimulus. It came down a little bit. Stimulus stuck around for a little bit, basically 2 fiscal years, and it dropped off again. And you'll see that New Jersey basically mirrors the same pattern. Those are grants, federal grants received in the state of New Jersey since from 2003 to 2013, but there's a caveat to that. Obviously, we're only 5 months into fiscal year 2013, so that's really not accurate data, but you can see a definite drop-off. All right. Knowing that the commission is interested in seeking funding, where do you look? And it's been mentioned that you'd be looking to the Army Corps of Engineers. That's an obvious place to look. If you're looking for other federal funds, a one-stop shop place for you to identify federal funding is grants.gov. That's the Fed's main website for grant information. You don't need to be registered for that. You need to be registered to apply, but to look and seek opportunities, you do not need to be registered. You can go on that site. Anybody can go on that site, public, regular citizens, it doesn't matter. And you can search for grant opportunities there and then apply directly through that website for them. If you know more targeted what you're looking for, you can just, for example, go to FEMA.gov and you'll find their hazard mitigation assistance grant programs listed there. They have 5 listed on their website currently, but just because they're listed doesn't mean that there's any funding for those right now. So a little bit more research needs to be done on that. You also have some state funding available as well. One that I just threw up here is the DEP's Blue Acres program. Unfortunately, the state of New Jersey does not have a website that provides grant information in one place. You need to just go through every single state agency's page and look for it. It's a little bit painful. All right, the third step that I was presenting tonight is how do you write it? And as I said in the beginning, the writing is the easiest part if you've done your homework well. There is no secret to grant writing. I tell people you just follow the directions. Honestly, that's literally what it is. You have a grant opportunity. There's always guidelines. They explain what they're looking for. They ask you questions. You answer the questions. Follow the guidelines word for word. Answer every question. Explain everything. Even things that are not applicable, explain why. Because someone in another community, in another state, doesn't understand the things that we experience here on a day-to-day basis. In addition, especially if you're using a team to write something, make sure the information is consistent across the whole application. Get an outsider's review. Sometimes people use me for that purpose. They'll shoot me a draft copy and ask me to review something, and I'll come back and say, okay, you used a bunch of acronyms. I don't know what that means, or maybe I do know what it means, but I'm just pointing out that you haven't defined it for the reader. And I'll provide some feedback. There isn't always a lot of time to get that outside review done, though, because if you're lucky, you'll have 45 days from when an announcement is made to when an application is due. Sometimes 30 days by the time you hear about it. So that just goes back to my original point of kind of having all your ducks in order, all that paperwork. You don't want to be running around scrambling, trying to pull together a list of the commissioners' names and addresses at the last minute. That kind of stuff can be prepared well in advance, and you just pull it into an application when you need it. Make sure your application is prepared with input and participation from everybody involved. Use relevant and up-to-date statistics. This is not the time to be pulling data from 1985. That's just much too long ago. Present a realistic budget. You can kind of tell when a budget's been backfilled. Well, they said they have $100,000 available, so we're going to put 75 in for this, and 20 for that, and 5 for another thing. Doesn't really look very realistic, like you put much thought into it. I talked about this before, but present a clear plan for sustainability and outcome measurement. Sustainability is how you're going to continue this in the absence of that grant funding in year 2, year 3, year 4. And what are your outcome measures? What do you expect to accomplish? And then lastly, document your partnerships. Partnerships are a very important thing in grant applications these days. Obviously, the commission is a partnership. You just want to make sure that that's emphasized. Okay. And I would normally have a step 4, which would be managing your grant after it's awarded, but we're a little premature for that right now, so I'll leave that out. Grants management is a whole another arena, which I have a lot of fun with at work most of the time. So I just want to leave you with a strategy. I know some of the municipalities in Somerset County have already taken this kind of strategy on their own, and that's to develop a grants committee. Here's the one piece of advice I can leave you with. You won't win a grant if you don't know about it. So it's important to have a committee, have someone who's accountable for either looking for opportunities or receiving communications and then quickly acting on a grant opportunity when it's available if you decide it's appropriate for you. Again, I had mentioned that sometimes you have 30 days to complete something, so there's no time to waste, really. A grant committee can be tasked with needs assessment and information gathering. They can do all that background work for you ahead of time. They can research grant opportunities. They can make contacts and develop relationships while they're looking for funding so that when you do find something, people have heard of you. They know you have a reputation in the community and that you're respected. And then they can also work on budget development as well as completing the application or working with a professional grant writer. If I think you're maybe looking into that avenue, which is a wonderful avenue. I'm glad to hear that. But I'm sure that grant writer would appreciate some input from the commission members as well. It's difficult to write something completely on your own. I know how that works. So lastly, just a well-developed and prepared committee can work quickly and efficiently to produce quality grant applications before the deadlines. So that's what I wanted to leave you with, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I guess the first thing I want to thank you very much. This is, one, I'm excited that we're getting into this and starting it. After your presentation, I'm a little saying, wow, we were like a little bit like 5 years behind the curve here. We have to be jumping in at the low point here. But we have a better idea of what we need to do. What we thought we'd do is create a committee. We have a finance committee, we have a secretary, we have a legislative committee. So we maybe have to create, like you said, a grant writing committee. But also we're looking into, we put money in the budget to get a grant writer because we're very, very busy. Also, a lot of people are on councils and on the flood commission, so I know they're very active. So we're trying to figure out the best way to do this. And we're just to put our toe into the water. We're just brand new at it. We tried it last year. We really didn't know what we were doing. We luckily we had somebody that helped us last year. They volunteered, so we tried that. But I see after your guidelines here, we have a lot of work to do. It's the first step. Are we ready for it? Looking at your steps, no, we're not ready for it. We've got to get, like you said, all of our ducks in order here before we really start doing it. And I'm glad you showed it to me because I think it would have been a waste of time to go get a grant writer when we're not even ready for that. So I want to make sure that we're ready and then spend our money wisely to get a grant writer and be ready for it. Is there any, like, January to April you want to do it, but it kind of fades away at the beginning of the year? Is there a time where grants do show up and then if you miss this window, you're not going to be available to the next year?
You know, honestly, in 20 years, I don't know that I've ever figured that out. It depends. You'll end up with, there's a government shutdown, there's a continuing resolution, everything's delayed, then all of a sudden, the grants will come out. And probably when I first started doing this, you could count on, once the fiscal year started, those announcements came out and you were busy. Things, the last 10 years or so have been so haywire, you don't really know. And I don't know that the state ever really had a time frame for releasing grants.
And I see you mentioned local, state, and federal. Also, what we've seen is a lot of private organizations now, and I'm hoping that's maybe a great opportunity for us too. I think last year we tried Sustainable New Jersey for a grant there, and we saw off their page we saw some other ones. And on March 16th we have a workshop, and we're trying to bring people into that, and hopefully we get a better idea from that what do we want to go after? Like you had some real good examples. The FEMA ones are really good, and the going after the Army Corps of Engineers. David's been a big help with that. So there are a lot of people out there that I think we can use as a reference and resources. But I think looking at your list, we're not even on step one yet. I think we have to get everything together. Anybody else on the commission? Questions?
Just thank you for being here.
Just a reminder. Oh, sorry.
Just got a couple questions.
All right.
Hi Denise, how are you doing? Do you suggest that the committee look at different grant writers for different grants, or just some? Am I supposed to push that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you suggest that the commission look at someone the right grants for the individual grants, or literally, in essence, contract with one grant writer to do that? And have you seen grants that the grant writing could be included as part of the grant application, or is that just taboo in the industry?
Okay, so two questions. I guess my opinion on the first question would be find one person and stick with that one person. They can learn the organization, they can spend time with you and understand what your needs are, where you're going with your thought process on how you want to assist the communities and the residents and the businesses. I don't think you want to keep explaining that to 4 different people. If you find the right person, they should be able to write any grant for you. And then the other question was about writing and including the fee for services in the grant application. That can be done in some cases, but I don't know if you're getting into the area of trying to pay somebody on a percentage basis or not. But I mean, in the field, we don't. Anybody who's associated with the Grant Professionals Association, anybody who's a member of that, has signed an ethics statement that they will not work on a percentage basis. So if you find a consultant who's a member of GPA, they won't work that way. It's on a fee for service basis.
Now, is GPA the organization that we should run someone through as far as a reference, or should they just be a member of it? Like, how do we really find?
Well, GPA is just a professional organization, but over the last couple of years, they've developed an exam, a certification exam. So if you find somebody with a GPC credential, Grant Professionals Certified, that person has gone through, has significant experience, has gone through a number of training programs, and has sat for the exam. I have not done that yet myself. But I would highly respect somebody who had that credential.
Thank you.
Would you be able to, or refer anybody that we could maybe start interviewing for a grant writer? Or would you have a resource that we can go to that list these people?
I'm actually the treasurer of the New Jersey chapter of the GPA, and so I've also chaired a national committee as well. So I have extensive involvement with the association, and we do share job opportunities, things like that. And then there's also a consultants directory that if you wanted a list of names, I could get that for you.
That'd be a great help. Anybody else?
Actually. Denise, again, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You say making contacts, developing relationships. Who should we be making contacts with, and who should we be developing those relationships with?
Anybody who has money. I mean, that's good for just personal, right? Just do that on a personal basis. We're very fortunate in Somerset County. There are a lot of major corporations here, and they have corporate giving programs. So you want to go through your head and go, I drive past that big Fortune 500 company every day, and I think I might know somebody who works there. You have to start thinking in those terms. Who do you know who works for those big companies? Who's the corporate contributions officer, and what do they give money for? Just because the company, though, is in Somerset County doesn't mean they're automatically going to assist any entity looking for support in Somerset County. They have very specific giving guidelines, just like the feds, just like the state. But if there's a match, then And how do you find them?
Exactly, how do we know?
Oh, there's this thing called Google, and a lot of us grant writers use that now. There's also databases that are either free or at a substantial, significant cost to subscribe to. We could talk about that in further detail at another point in time. But basically every large company's got a website. You can find their annual report. You can look up their giving information. You can find out who their officers are that way. I mean, the internet has literally changed the way those of us in the grants field do business nowadays.
Anybody else? What I'd like to do is open it to the public, if they have any questions, just for the grant writing section of this. Nope. If you could state your name and address.
Mike Chabra, 19 Uncas Street, Manville, New Jersey. I just have one question. Since we're in Somerset County, this commission, and the flooding problem's a main thing in Somerset County, can't we get Somerset County to actually participate in this part of writing grants for us?
We happen to have the grant writer for Somerset County
Well,
here.
it's not her job to do it. I would think we would have to go through the Board of Freeholders or whoever's our representative.
This is step one. Step two is
Okay. Because I would think, she has 20 years of experience, and if it's a county problem along with us, and it's not just Manville, it's all of us that are a part of this now. I would think maybe the county would have more pull or more knowledge to step in and guide us more than us just starting with Google and all, because they've been doing it.
Well, I think there's two different issues here. One is helping us write for grants from the Fed, from the state. And I think that's why Denise is here, and the county is stepping up to try and help us, at least train us if nothing else.
Yeah.
The second piece of it, and I think that's where you were going, is grants from the county. And that's a whole different ballgame that we need to take a look at and see if there is anything there as far as Blue Acres money and that kind of stuff.
Well, I was
But that's
leaning
separate.
towards like open
Right.
space funding and
Right.
stuff that the state and Blue Acres told me that was open to flood victims in Manville. And after going through the process, I hit roadblocks from the governor's office all the way through the counties.
We're going to talk a little bit more later about a meeting we had with the LD16 and Blue Acres money, right? So
Okay.
we can address more of that in a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
But there is good news on that.
But we are going to reach out to everybody who can from the county, which we reached out and they were good enough to come to this meeting. And the minimum, they're going to hopefully help us, guide us through this, because already, just listening tonight, we were nowhere near ready to do the grants. And also, we are going to reach out to them if we get a grant writer, maybe to review the grants or to help us out. I have her email, so I'm definitely, and she's gonna have business cards that we're gonna help out. So I think this is something, one of our goals for this year, and we just got to decide. The most important thing is, one, on the commission we need to have a point person, and I'm gonna ask to see if we get a committee created, a grant writing committee, and have a point person. So hopefully by the March meeting we'll have somebody on that, so we can focus on that. And two, have them to set up some time, one-on-one maybe, just to have questions and answers to see what we're doing. But this is an opportunity for us, and I think we've got to define what do we want to go for grants. Like you said, we got to find a match. And you saw flooding mitigation, of course, water mitigation. You saw a bunch of them from FEMA, but Sustainable New Jersey and all that was excellent too. So we're not going to turn anything down.
Yeah, my only point with the county has gone through all this since Doria, since Hurricane Floyd in 1999. They've dealt more, and I've dealt with FEMA all these years. They've knocked their heads against the wall just like I wish. And to hit roadblocks, if there was something that the county would be willing to step in, and, I realize there's a county person who's on this board.
Right.
Okay? And I'm sure the freeholders have their own, Somerset County, like she says, has everything with financial difficulties too. But if there's somebody there that could sit down with yous, because we as the public have nothing to do with this until you people get. And no offense to Army Corps of Engineers, are going back to the Greenbrook Flood Commission with 40 years of waiting to start that project. Manville will be ruined, and all you other communities around us, because it's only getting worse with that Battenberg wall.
I agree, and that's why this is one of the 3 areas we want to look to. Work with the Army Corps, but also have small projects that we could maybe help the people now. All right, thank you. Anybody else in the audience? All right, I want to thank you very much. Also, I wanted to bring up Angela, who helped us last year with grants. And I just wanted her to go over what you saw what went good and what went bad last year with our first attempt.
Hi, everybody. Again, my name's Angela Clerico. I'm a senior planner with Natural Systems Utilities. We're a sustainable water resource management company in Hillsborough. Just to remind you of my background here, I grew up in Hillsborough and I currently live in Somerville. And so a lot of the issues that we talk about here are literally very close to home for me. I think Denise's presentation was excellent, and all of the information and suggestions she gave you were right on. I would say, I don't think last year I don't think that there were goods and bads. I think maybe, like Denise said, finding the match for that particular grant program, maybe it wasn't, I don't think Sustainable Jersey was there yet. And since then,
Excuse
Yes.
me, I hate to interrupt,
Sure.
but our technical person said you need to be closer to the
I
microphone.
need to be closer to the microphone. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
And same thing for everyone on the commission. You have to
All
make
right.
sure your
Okay.
red light is on and speak into the mic.
Since last year, Sustainable Jersey has created a Green Infrastructure Task Force, which I sit on. And what that task force is specifically looking at are alternative measures for flood mitigation in particular. So, and that's for, across the whole state. Of course, when I go to these meetings, I think of the areas that that I work with in New Jersey. So, so the Raritan Millstone watershed is very much on my mind. So what I would say in terms of going forward with looking for funding is, yes, define a mission, and I would say get a list of projects together too that, like Denise said, you could readily pull from if you see a match for, if you see funding for something, you have a list of projects that you could pull from. And that might come out of your workshop on the 16th. I think that would be a good place to maybe start narrowing down some priority areas that as a commission you could look at, but then maybe also what might make sense in the individual communities too. Maybe doing a region-wide program may not make sense, whereas implementing smaller projects in the individual communities to kind of get momentum going would be a good first step. And again, that might come out of your workshop. Still, there is funding through the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust. They do very low interest loans. And I recently spoke with them about wastewater management planning, in particular with regard to recovery planning from the hurricane. And they were very excited to be giving out money and helping people. And the executive director said, please spread the word. We want to help people as much as we can. They work specifically with the DEP and the Division of Water Supply and the Division of Water Quality. So together they distribute the money. And so if you go to the New Jersey Infrastructure Trust's website, which I don't have, but if you Google it, as Denise said, that's the best way to find information. There is a form there that you can fill out just to get on a list so that they are aware that you are seeking funding. So that's one thing. I was also told that the county's offices of emergency management are also places to be looking for funding for these types of projects. And, like Denise said too, a lot of the corporate places around here have the community giving programs. That's an excellent resource. The Dodge Foundation is always an opportunity too. But again, they were hesitant to talk with us about this area because there was no specific project. So I think that's a really important thing for the commission to prioritize are specific projects that with budgets that go along with them that you can present to a funding organization. Recently at the New Jersey Planning Association, we have been talking about hazard mitigation planning. So each of the individual communities might want to take a look at their own hazard mitigation plans. I believe the county has one, and the towns might want to look and see how consistent they are, the individual towns with the county. But that's a big focus for the New Jersey Planning Association this year, is helping communities plan ahead of future disaster, basically. And we've recently formed a hazard mitigation and recovery planning committee. And so that group is going to be working on guidelines for towns that want to implement hazard mitigation plans in their towns. And along with that, the New Jersey chapter of the American Planning Association, we have a community planning assistance program. The deadline for applications for that is March 15th. And what that is it's not a funding source per se, but it is a pro bono service from the New Jersey Planning Association, where they have planners who have volunteered their time to work with communities on a 2 to 4 day charrette visioning process. And I think it's a really great program. And what I would say is, after the March 16th workshop, you have your list of priorities. I would say put an application in for this community planning assistance program, because then you could get someone to come out and work with you on those priority areas. So that's just another resource, I think, that might be something to look into. Sustainable Jersey doesn't have any funding right now, unfortunately, but I think that the Green Infrastructure Task Force is a good step forward with them. So we're working very closely with them to make sure that all of the concerns that, we talk about here are included in any design guidelines and any kind of ordinance templates, even just resources and outreach and public education. So those are just the few things that I could think of and wanted to share with you all. So anything we can do to help, because it's in our backyard, we'd be happy to do that. And we'd look forward to working with you in the future.
First off, I want to thank you for coming tonight, and also thank you very much for last year for stepping up and for a first-year commission. Yes, okay. Oh, you just turned it off. First-year commission, it was great at least to give it a try to do that. You and I think it was Hillsborough was stepped up, and they were our sponsor town. What we had to do was find a town that would sponsor it, because we found out the commission really could not sponsor for a grant. It had to be a town sponsor. So Hillsborough stepped up last year. We'll have to do the same thing this year, find out a town who would sponsor for us to get a grant. But that was an experience last year, and I think you're right. We tried it. We really didn't have a project to fund with it, and it kind of wasn't a perfect match. So I think it was an education, a little bit of that. So hopefully we do a bit better this year after the workshop. If we get a committee together, head of the committee, hopefully we could tap you for a little bit of assistance. I know you were good enough to help us last year, so hopefully we could take your knowledge. So between your knowledge and the county, hopefully we could be even a small successful this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I plan to attend on the 16th as well to just learn more and see where we can be of help. So I'll look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Now we'll go back to the irregular order of the agenda. First order of business is recording secretary report. Need a motion to approve the minutes from the January 2013 meeting that was sent out in email.
I have a correction.
Sure.
The June meeting, is that Millstone?
The June meeting.
Minutes is
The June meeting is at. I thought it was Millstone. Were they? Okay. So I'll have to change that, because it should say a early meeting. It's actually earlier?
Yes.
Right, the town of Manville's there? All right, so I'll go back, I have it on my computer, to change it to Millstone. June meeting?
One minor, lost action on it. Oh, sorry. Have the minutes been amended to take care of Dr. Chase's point that Franklin has taken care of that is excellent.
Also, on my section, the 3.7 million, it was actually 2.85 million has been received, not depleted, so I would just say received.
2.85 received,
Yeah,
and how much remaining?
approximately 400,000.
Are those the same numbers? Are those the same numbers you gave us last time, or are you correcting the numbers? Because we can't correct the numbers. We can only, minutes are what was said, not
Right.
what we wanted to.
I didn't- Somebody on the panel, I believe, said the number.
Okay.
I didn't have the numbers with me.
Okay.
at
Okay.
that time. I emailed the numbers after the meeting.
Okay, so you're saying we received 2.85 million, and there's over 3 million remaining? 4 million remaining?
No,
It's 400,000.
Needed. Oh, 400,000
400,000 needed?
remaining,
no,
Remaining.
Remaining?
unspent.
unspent.
Oh, okay.
That 2.8.
2.85 received, okay. And I know we mentioned what was left, and that's why I thought 3.75 was remaining, and that's
Or I believe it's around 3.9.
3.9? Okay.
I think we were, at the meeting, though, we were referring to it as 3.8 throughout the meeting.
Yeah,
And again, the
3.8.
minutes are what was said, not
Right.
the actual.
So I think the 3.8 was actually what was, okay. Okay. So did you get all that? Okay.
Okay, with those changes, with those amendments and changes, Rocky Hill moves it.
Rocky Hill moves, I need a second.
Campbell second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Yeah.
Correspondence, emails sent back and forth, and mails. Emails
He knows.
back and forth to multiple people on the DEP, dealing with a meeting we had. Emails sent and mail sent back and forth to Raritan Valley Community College, dealing with the workshop. Here's one of them, is the contract for the workshop. Emails to Somerset County, dealing with the grant writer to show up today. Those were the correspondence related with the DEPs, if you want to mention. During those correspondence, there was also senator and assembly that were CC'd during those DEP emails. So they were the correspondence for the last month. Treasurer's report, I'll turn this over to Kevin.
Sure, thank you. The treasurer's report, there are no claims between the last meeting and this meeting for payment. We did receive Manville's check for $250 as part of their dues during that time period. I think we're going to discuss a little on the changing the budget for the RVCC from $750 to $1,000, and there were no donations provided. As far as the finance report, the current balance of our account is $7,131.98. That's not a reconciled number because we don't have the statement in yet. We did complete some of the auditor recommendations by adding Gail Smith to the signatories, and both Hillsborough and South Bound Brook have provided purchase orders for payment, so by next meeting we should have those checks in. Those members from Montgomery, Rocky Hill, and Somerset County, we will be sending out debt collectors. We don't see a check shortly. And
Already sent the text to our account administrator, so it'll be coming from.
checks in the mail, in other words.
2 weeks out, we'll get it.
On Tuesday.
And that's basically the finance report. So at this time, Bridgewater, Franklin, Manville, Millstone, and Somerville are all paid.
Okay. I'd like to have a motion to accept the treasurer's report for the month of February.
So,
I need a second.
Franklin, second.
Franklin? All right, it's finance, so can we do a roll call?
Yep.
Roll call? The towns.
Bridgewater? I'm sorry, Franklin?
Yes.
Manville?
Yes.
Millstone?
Yes.
Montgomery?
Yes.
Rocky Hill?
Yes.
Somerville?
Yes.
Somerset County?
All right, the motion passes. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion for a line item transfer, as Kevin mentioned, for the RVCC workshop. We budgeted around $750, we were guessing. So a line item transfer of $250 from, what would you recommend, Kevin?
It's from for seminars, I believe it was.
It's 2 seminars from what account? I know we have a surplus account there, so.
I was just trying to look to see how we actually spelled that out. Educational seminars.
Okay.
From the educational seminars, I think we originally appropriated $750, and we're
Right.
looking to change that to 1,000.
All right, so I need a motion to do a line item transfer to increase the education seminars from $750 to $1,000. And the reason why is basically the cost for seminar, we had an estimate of $750 with, being it's on a Saturday and have to bring people in. The RVCC was good enough, they did give us a discount rate, but it will be about $250 more. So we do have that in budget, so we do have money that we could transfer that. So I need a motion to do that transfer.
So moved, Rocky Hill.
Second Franklin. Roll call, because it's transfer of money.
Manville,
Yes.
Millstone,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Rocky Hill,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Somerset County. Yes.
All right. You did everything?
We missed Franklin on that roll call, I believe.
Wants to say Franklin.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
All right. So that takes care of the finance report. Again, if anybody could send the checks or any of the invoices to our PO box, Kevin or I will pick it up. Budget review, we went over the budget last January. There was one slight change that may happen. We had $250 in there for Raritan. We'll work throughout the year, see if Raritan will join us. If not, we'll have to remove $250 as an income for the budget.
Yeah, I think we're going to have an offset, though, because both Franklin and Bridgewater did not pay last year, so they paid in this year. So we'll actually be up $250 this year.
okay.
By the time we end, I'll get you, after all the money's through, I'll get you an updated printout of where we are.
So Franklin paid last year and this year.
No, Franklin, last year, we didn't, when we did their budget at the end of the year, we closed the year without Franklin and
Oh, okay.
Bridgewater's payment.
I get you. So we got it.
And we had no debt against them.
Okay.
So this year, they paid twice.
Okay,
for
which covers it.
2012 and 2013.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's good. And Bridgewater too, right?
That's correct.
Excellent. Okay, good. So we'll make it up there. But we'll go on a little farther. Might be some additional information. Okay, so that's the budget. We'll have a meeting, probably a budget review meeting, I'm guessing right around September. So we can plan this year and next year's budget. The next section is a new section on the agenda. It's the resolutions. Basically, I'm going to put up a resolution that should have been part of your emails and your agenda. Hopefully, if you don't have it, I have some extra copies down there. It's a resolution. The resolution is a motion to approve Resolution 13.2.1 to support the Raritan and Millstone River Flood Control Commission, that it does hereby request that all state and federal representatives with jurisdiction along the Raritan Millstone River assures the commission that the necessary funding to complete the Millstone River Basin, New Jersey flood damage reduction and restoration study will be accomplished through the use of Superstorm Sandy assistant funds. So I guess I could bring this up. We had a meeting with DEP and the Senator Bateman, Assemblywoman Simon, and Senator Cheritelli, that at Senator Bateman's office to go over funding for the Army Corps' project that we are having. That's why I was inquiring about the numbers too, because with those numbers, we talked a lot about numbers at the meeting, but everybody was in that meeting agreed on two things. One, the money, the billions of dollars that are coming in the state of New Jersey, it has stipulations that not, a lot of it cannot come to Somerset County. It has to be to the shore areas that were impacted by Sandy. So the money that came in from the federal government, it has to be appropriated for the Sandy impact, which is mostly down the shore area. But with that money going there, there should be monies that would be normally going down to that aren't appropriated by the state. in the federal government. So we're hoping to get other fundings that would come to us. So we have talked to state representatives and federal representatives, hoping to appropriate some of this money that's coming to the state towards the Army Corps of Engineers project on the Raritan River Basin. And that's what this resolution is to do. And we got a cover, Dan is doing a cover letter that we will send to every representative, even our governor, anybody who will have a voice that can help us, we will definitely send it to it. Congressmen, senators, governors, even the president, if he's willing to help us get some funding for that. So I need a motion to accept that resolution.
Manville would be honored to make that motion.
Thank you.
Rocky Hill will second.
All right, roll call, please, for the resolution.
Franklin?
I just have a question.
Sure.
In the sixth paragraph, does that number have to be revised?
These numbers actually came from, good enough, Gary Garacki actually contacted DEP, our DEP rep, and
Okay.
got these numbers. So they're a little different than yours, but they came from the DEP. So I'm not sure which one Gary went to. There were 6 DEP representatives at the meeting, so.
How far?
Oh,
If you email me, I can.
Right. So the resolution says in number 6, whereas the study comments 2002 by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is now 11 years in progress and only 3.846 has been funded to this date. The original cost is 6.8. So they're saying $3,846,719 has been funded up to this point.
Yeah, I would correct it then, because that is significant.
And what number do you say goes there?
I can tell you what's remaining. The federal government, federal funds are $1,362,281. Non-federal funds are $1,491,000.
Spent yourself amount.
No, total received today.
Total received, so it's one,
Oh, that's on.
so 1.8, what's the first one? 1.8,
No, one federal funds.
Yeah.
$1,362,281.
and the state?
$1,491,000.
About 2.8.
That's 3, that's 5, 7, so 3.75.
I appreciate your numbers, and they're probably correct. I get that, but if Gary actually spoke to the DEP and we're sending this with DEP
Right.
knowing about it, we probably should stick with their numbers.
We have.
I mean, I understand yours.
Confirm with John Moore.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll vote on this. We use the current numbers. I got your numbers here too. But we'll leave it as, basically, it says it's about $100,000. It's about $100,000 difference.
No,
So,
it's
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
a million.
I think as part of the motion, perhaps, I think Jerry made the motion, if she would consider amending it to permit you to verify the numbers with DEP, and say that's just a technical amendment to the motion, and you can do that independently, the principle is the same. If that's all right, we can authorize that and proceed with the motion.
Absolutely.
Okay. Amended that,
Second, same.
okay, with amendment that we will contact DEP and Army Corps. I'll talk to you and add it to the email to get the proper number.
David, the cost of 6.8 is correct, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have that. It's just
For a million.
it's just the funding that we have received at this
It
point.
might have been the remaining balance that they thought you were asking, because that's 3.9 million.
That's almost that. Okay,
So we'll verify it.
okay, so you're right. So we'll verify it and put that proper number in at that point. And then,
So we're going to take a roll call vote?
roll call.
I mean, yep.
Franklin?
Yes.
Manville?
Yes.
Millstone?
Yes.
Montgomery? Yes. Rocky Hill?
Yes.
Somerville?
Yes.
Somerset County?
Motion passes. Dan, we've got a cover letter Dan has put together with the legislative committee. He'll hit that at his point of the agenda,
That is his point.
which is basically
Now.
now. So we're at the commission secretary report and legislative and communication committee, and that's Dan. And I know John's has some input on that too, but we'll let Dan start it.
Thank you.
Is mic on?
Yes, this is my son.
We've put together a cover letter that will address all of our federal, state, and our governor representatives, along with the, no, not that. Oh, the,
Resolution?
yeah, resolutions that we just approved. And then we're going to follow up with them in person. That's the cover letter. The next thing is that I put together a petition letter. The first petition letter is going to be at our meeting on March 16th. And that's for everyone that attends. We hope, as they come through, to read our petition letter and sign it. At the next meeting, we will have another petition letter. And that will be for the residents who would like to go out and distribute those among their towns to show support. With that petition letter, we will make it easy for them to read, easy for them to sign, and easy for them to return, because we'll talk about this, but we're gonna probably pick one government official, and we're gonna target one each month, so we get the maximum out of our petition letters. So instead of receiving a few, they receive a lot from all of us. Along with that, we're planning on setting up meetings with our congressmen and senators in Washington, again, to follow up with our petition and do the best we can about getting some money. And that target date is May or June.
Thank you. So we're going to be getting these letters out, and I've gotten emails from citizens saying, if you gave me a letter, I'll go to door. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have that. But the first one is going to be just for the March the 16th. And I hope all of you attend that. And I have a agenda for that meeting, and it looks like it's going to be a great day. So we'll have that letter first. But also the very first letter will be sent out to every representative we have. So we can get with our resolution and have people's eyes on it. Dan, thanks. John?
Thank you, Jim. Just one point. One of the good things about that meeting with Kip Bateman and Assemblyman Chitterelli and Assemblywoman Simon was their interest in, not only making this an effort that crosses municipal lines, but also crosses political lines. And it was suggested, and Senator Bateman was enthusiastic on it, that we also try to set up a meeting with our 17th District delegation, which Franklin covers. And I would note that Dr. Chase was also on the council, joined us. And I would ask if maybe if the Franklin folks can help coordinate a meeting with the 17th Legislative District. That would be, Dan is the chair of the Legislation Committee and the chairman. If we could arrange that, it would be terrific.
Yeah. Like I said, if we could knock on the door, we'll reach out to every senator, assembly person that we can get.
Senator Smith, who is from Piscataway, and then Piscataway gets some flooding, is chairman of the Senate Environmental Committee, so he's an important player in the majority of the state Senate. So and Assemblyman Chivicola has always been helpful, so,
Right.
and it's Egan too.
And I know they're currently having some bills in the state dealing with flooding, horse, and environment, so hopefully we could reach them before any decisions are made. All right. We'll go to the Engineering Committee. Carl's not here, but we do have the county representation. Carl was good enough to work with me this past week to get a contacts for OEM for the county. We're going to try to have two things. At the March 16th, we're going to have a table with the OEM and CERT. So we'll have information there dealing with OEM and CERT at the March 16th meeting, dealing with preparatives. And right next to that table, we're going to have the Red Cross table with more information. But also in May, we're going to have a presentation here by the county OEM dealing with basically master plan, dealing with planning boards and master plan and OEM and how all these interact with each other. So basically, this way, when
Closer,
yeah, closer, okay.
closer.
So basically, if we get the OEM here and the master plan, we can explain how from the state level with OEM down to the county level, down to each town. So we're going to try to get, I know we're going to try to get the Manville representative there too, so we can get down at least to one town level. So we go from the town to the county to the state, understanding how these plans, master plans are done for disasters and how we are planning ahead of the curve. And that's where we really have to start. Because as you come up and tell us, you over and over, you say, you know, it's not if, it's when. So we got to make sure that in the meantime, we are well planned and we are have all of our bases covered from the state all the way down to the local towns. And Carla is working with the OEM county people on that. And that will be the May meeting. So now, David, it's the Army Corps of Engineers monthly status report. If you can just go over some of the numbers and the status of the project, the like milestones and that you've hit.
Okay. I spoke to New Jersey DEP, and they have no objection with me sharing information, and we're planning on providing you, the commission, a working schedule with this year's that is currently funded, basic milestones and status.
When can we expect that?
Hopefully by next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Think by March 16th meeting?
hopefully,
Okay.
yes.
And David, how will that be presented? Will it be like in a timeline? Will that be
Or,
written?
do you have
paper?
Microsoft Project? Or actually, I'll convert the PDF and email it to you
Either that or I have project.
That's the best way to do it.
before, yeah. So, we're still working on having the channelization plan, district quality control, as well as our non-structural plan, having that completed by April. The last team meeting, it's a possible delay of a month for the costs of the two remaining plans because of the emergency work and contracts that have to get estimates as well. It depends how the two line up. It's not certain, but it's a possibility, which would delay the BCRs till July of this
Excuse
summer.
me,
Yes.
David, when will you know that?
At that time, whether the cost estimators, if they have the contracts on their desk, they'll have to do the FCC&E with the emergency fund contracts do take priority.
So our contracts, even though if they have them, could be set aside because of emergency contracts? Is that correct?
Yes.
David, dealing with the funding that's hitting New Jersey, the amount of money that's coming in, and I know the governor is trying to appoint somebody with the money. We understand a lot of it cannot come to this project because it's designated for Sandy, but there are certain areas that would be able to. Has anybody talked to you about additional funding coming, or basically at this point it's going to wait for us to start knocking on doors?
Or I've been asking everybody about the Sandy funds, and I pretty much got the same answer you did. And the law does say you had to be affected
By Sandy,
by Sandy.
even though we were remotely.
And it's considered coastal if there's some
Yes, it was really,
tidal flux.
whoever designed the bill made it very narrow. It hit for the shore. I think it shook all of us there that we were not expecting that. But with that funding, we're hoping that other funding will become available because that will take the place of that funding. So we're trying to get through that side. Basically, there's funding that would be used, but since these areas down the shore now will be getting millions of dollars from Sandy, the money that was designated for them, hopefully that will open up to our flood commission.
I'm hoping.
And we did make the point to DEP and to LD 16 representatives that it was a little disappointing that money was going to Alaskan fisheries, but not Manville, out of that money, and they were going to take that back and see if they can do something.
They're
I
very-
still haven't had final word, but that's the way it looks.
It seemed like that way. But also, they were very open to trying to find other ways to fund it in any way possible, and that's why we're trying to do through our side. We're hoping from the DEP side and the Army Corps are still looking from their side to try to get funding, because it's two-way. We have to push from our side, but you have to ask from your side. And I think that was explained to us, that from both ways, it's the only way we'll get funding. And what was stated was basically, if we get the federal funding, the state has never been able to not match funding.
Correct. As I mentioned, we have over $100,000 additional non-federal funding, that if we just received $100,000 in federal funding, we would then be able to spend that extra
Spend
100,000, right.
So you have 400, there's 400,000 right now that's left of the money, so hopefully another 200,000, so we get a little bit closer to that funding amount you need. Do you have a budgeted amount for this year you expect to spend?
Yeah, pretty much, we should, if we reach our milestones, we would pretty much deplete it to
400,000?
the BCR.
But the 200,000 wouldn't hurt to add on top of it.
Oh, definitely not. I requested a higher capability every year we put in our capabilities. And
All right, so hopefully we'll get that by March, and at the March meeting, we'll have a little section of the meeting, just basically to go over that. During the March 16th meeting, the workshop, there'll be a little section for you just to go over that project.
I'm hoping to be able to attend. Is the morning the
If you tell me,
presentation?
you'll,
Because I wouldn't be able to
Right.
attend both.
you tell
and
me,
It depends on,
you tell me, because we have a half hour at the beginning of it, and we have a half hour at the end of it for board business, and you'll be in one of those two slots. Just tell me, is 9:30 better for you, or 2:30 better for you? So,
yeah, the 9:30.
the 9:30, okay, so we'll add you to that part of the,
Okay. And if anything comes up that I'm not able to, because the sequestration is, I could be on furlough, which I might not be able to
Okay.
work on Saturday.
yeah, okay. I know, my son works for,
Do you want to talk about the DEP discussions, about the weir and everything, the levy?
well, so hold that one. Right, we have a resolution being designed for next meeting, so we want to hold off of that?
Okay, I just thought you wanted an update on
So,
what we
yeah.
discussed.
So, also, the second half of the meeting, and you weren't there, but we had a DEP to go over the levy at Zarpath and the island, Farm Island Ware. We had, there were 6 representatives from every department DEP had. It was quite an impressive group of people. Every question we had, they could,
They were one level down from the commissioner. The commissioner didn't make it, but every one of his staff was
everybody,
there.
everyone of staff below the commission.
And they did come in with maps and photographs, and they did review some of the information that you've brought up here, or you've been brought up to. It was an interesting discussion, primarily on, I guess, Zarpath, more than anything else. What they showed us the measurements that they had.
Right.
Go ahead, if you want to
Yeah,
take it.
so basically, what they did is they described when it was created, 1947, and the specs of it, 1947 was 41 feet, a certain width of the levee. The last survey that was done was year 2000, basically because that was after a major flood, so they did a survey then. It was 41 feet with the same width. that were there. So basically, 1947 matched year 2000, the levy, or same size at that point. So they had, they went through the process of what Zarapath did with Franklin, did with the DEP, and they did with the county. Basically, they came in and filled in the levee at the point with dirt. And at that point, they got permission from from Franklin, but after that, they had to have their dirt checked. And it was classified as dirty dirt. But the county went back to them, because actually the person checking it is the county board of health. So our county board of health is the one that checks the dirt. So at that point, they went back to them, had to remove all that dirt and put in clean dirt. Since then, it has been checked by the county, and it's considered clean dirt at that site. So it is, they had a picture of what the site looked like prior to about year 2000, which was heavy trees, heavy grass, and what it looks like now. There are no trees, there are no grass. But that's not the end, because the DEP, and it's still under review with the DEP, the whole project, because there are still 2 phases that have to be complete. One, they have to replace all the grasses and the trees. So they have to plant trees and grasses there. So that was described to us, that that part has to be done yet. We gave them Dr. Shaw's name. They're going to go to records and get appropriate plantings, so it'd be flood-friendly, more absorbent, more resistant of water runoff. So that's the part that's still not done, that has to be done. The last part is the survey, just like they did in 2000. The levee is currently somewhere between about 38 feet to 42 feet. So it fluctuates. It's not a perfect 41 feet. When they're done, it's got to be 41 feet all the way around. So that was the fine to us. The last step that was discussed was a ramp/road that was built. From the levee, they built a road/ramp down. That will be removed.
It's in the process of being removed.
Yeah, it's in the process of being removed. So, and that will be inspected. So they do have to be inspected and checked by DEP and Franklin Township. So all these things were done through Franklin Township to approve the dirt to come in. Also, the project also was done with the county for the Board of Health to approve the dirt, and also with the DEP of what was done. They went over this whole thing with pictures. Also, for the March meeting, I have a small picture of what Zarapath, Franklin, Manville, the Point area is. I'll get that blown up for our March meeting and have it on one of the walls so the people in the audience can see this giant picture. We're going to have a resolution probably by the March. If we can't fit it at the meeting in March, we'll have it in April, to go over what was said at the meetings minute by minute, what was defined to us at DEP. So as a commission, we'll have it out to everybody so we could vote on it to accept the DEP's and the Franklin Township and the Somerset County Board of Health's explanation. They said, our first question was, you asked, how do we know, how do we get our hands on that in Somerset County? They said if you want it, it's about that thick of detailed information dealing with dirt at Zarapath. So that was all explained to us with that.
They explained a lot of stuff to us, and I know the people in the corner over there are not going to want to hear what they told us, but I'm going to share it anyway. They do claim that it is at 41 or being adjusted back to 41. They do claim that, and this is what they told us, so don't shoot the messenger, but they do claim that even if it was higher than 41, it wouldn't have made a difference because it didn't get to the 41. And that they are forcing it to come back down to where it originally was. If there's some peaks and some valleys, they're trying to get it leveled off back to 41 feet. They also are being very careful about the width on the riverside. There's only so far they're allowed to go out, and they're watching that very carefully. On their side, they don't care how far back they build it into their own property, but there was some more that they did, because we were really peppering them with questions because we know how you get hammered here, and we wanted to make sure we had DEP's version of it. They're close. You probably want to talk to them a little more. But for the most part, they were saying the same thing. And then on the weir, further downriver, we have some discussion.
Island farm where?
Right.
Right.
There was some discussion on what the difference would have been before, when it was a little further upstream, and then moving it down to where they meet, and what the difference is. Again, they're claiming that once the water goes over the top, it's over the top, and it doesn't delay it any. I'm not sure I totally agree with that. They did say there's no gates.
There's no gates.
There is
There
a
never was
fish
a plan.
ladder. There was no plan for gates.
When we did ask, if he put gates in, would it help? And they said the amount of water that comes down during these floods, those gates would be overrun very rapidly. and
Exactly.
It would have very little effect. So, we went over all these things. We have minutes. What we're doing right now is, getting the minutes together and then sending them back out to DEP. Say, okay, this is the minutes we took. Are you in agree that we got it, we took it right? And then probably on the April meeting, because the March is the 16th, we're gonna have to do a resolution as a commission to accept those minutes and accept what the DEP said, or not accept it. If we, it's up to the commission either way.
The upside of all of it is we know that the Corps of Engineers is greatly limited by A, funding, and B, what you can and cannot do because of DEP and the federal government. I will say that all of the members that were there from the DEP were phenomenal about how much they want to help and what they can within the scope of what they're allowed to do. There was no pushback about, we got other problems. They were all on top of it, giving us the information we needed and giving us recommendations on where to go find some funding. So I thought they did a pretty good job. I thought we walked out of there pretty comfortable that we were heading in the right direction.
I'd say it was about.
You probably need to talk to them a little more, communicate a little more, but, yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Meeting last week.
Yes.
A lot of what they said was similar to what David has
Yeah.
said about the various, I mean, I'm still not 100% certain on some of the substructures of the island farm wear, but that's for another day. But the other thing, Zarapaf has gotten knocked with some justification for bringing in the dirty soil. It should be pointed out in fairness that DEP represented that in recent months, since they rectified that situation, they have been working very closely with DEP, and the cooperation has been, superb.
They did. They also highly complimented Franklin Township for their work on that too, and how well they work together with Franklin.
Right. They said basically Zarapaf at this point has basically did whatever Franklin or DEP wants, we'll do. And that's why they're willing to go back out with Rutgers and Dr. Shaw and hopefully get plantings, and they're willing to do, basically to put trees back up and bushes and all that. And also they mentioned about the drainage. They're gonna double check the drainage, the width of the drainings. So yeah,
Did
Six
they say they're
outflows.
putting plantings on the levee itself?
they're gonna be putting plantings on the outside,
It was along the road.
along
the
the road
base.
and the base. So
Okay,
basically.
yeah, because we wouldn't want trees and
No.
plantings on.
No,
the
no,
no,
they're not gonna be on top. No, it's basically on the outer part of the levee. So when there's a runoff, it actually absorbs it.
But they also cut an enormous
Yes.
amount of foliage and trees and foliage along
At
that
the base.
road that they shouldn't
Yeah.
have built or raised up, and that's what's gonna be the
Right.
key for replacement.
Yeah, all along the levee and on the outside of the levee, the tree planting, bushes, all gone. So it's a bare. So that means there's a runoff. What they want to do is put.
But it's minimal
kind of
runoff.
riparian
Yes,
stuff,
yeah. So, but they would like to have bushes, trees, and planting grasses on that side of the levee that were
Riparian.
taken away. Basically, there's a road there, and there's a lot of stuff that was ripped out. They'd like to get as much greenage back as possible.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
when the report or summary that you're doing relevant to the meeting you're describing, could that be put onto the website or Facebook webpage, whatever our main source of getting information out, so that, whatever style, bullet point or whatever, I don't know if there's any formal written documentation that describes the resolutions that were
Well-
mutually acceptable
Right.
with everybody involved, but
Definitely. We have the resolution about almost done writing, so it's basically there.
okay.
But we just want to get, like you said, everything in proper order, and we want to make sure what we write as the minutes, that what we wrote down
Sure.
by hand, DEP
Well,
agrees.
Once you're fairly comfortable that, the facts won't be upsetting, and, well, at least not upsetting anybody from the point of being incorrect.
Right.
I don't know, I don't want to speak for our town, but I would surely request that maybe we could put it individually on our website and, on the other towns at their discretion.
Good idea.
I agree.
At least until the situation kind of, I don't want to say fades away, but at least gets into a more, closer to closure.
Right. And this is the reason why we just didn't throw it out. We want to make sure every number that we wrote down and every description is right. I don't want to put something out there we wrote down and we find out, no, it's off by so much. So, and also as we move along a month too, they're still DEP's still there. They haven't left. They're still working with Zarapath. So when I get these out, sent to DEP and the commission, hopefully they'll get back to us and approve it. And also they're going to go to Senator Bateman's office, who wants to double check everything right again. And Franklin, of course, is the major key to this.
And then maybe ongoing at whatever point you think would be most appropriate, a summary that kind of brings conclusion to it, and in a way, if nothing else, maybe this can be a document that would serve in the future to save some time and upset, when I'm sure we'll have a variety of actions going on, some that may bring confusion. This time we can get to it sooner than later.
That's the idea for the resolution. The resolution is to take all this information, summarize it, put it in a resolution so the commission can say, these are our findings, and basically, we're going to vote as a commission, yes, we agree what the DEP said, what Franklin said, what the county said, that all the parties involved have met, needed, and either even exceeded what the DEP said was a requirement, or the county, or Franklin said. So you're right, when we're done with this, hopefully by April, we'll vote it at this meeting, and then at that point, we give it to Franklin, and they can post it on their page, give it to Manville, so they can post it on theirs, and the county, and also to our page. Thank you. So,
I have
yes.
a question about that.
Sure.
I'm not sure why we need a resolution. I'm sorry. I'm not sure why we need a resolution and not just adopt the minutes of the meeting.
The resolution would be more of a focal point, and I think we all agree that that way, we're saying, as a commission, we're voting not on the minutes, we're voting on this topic, what was found, and we agree what the DEP, Franklin, and the county said. This is what was the outcome of the meeting. These are the information that we received from the DEP, from the county, and from the town of Franklin, and we either agree with it or we don't agree to it. We might not agree to all of it. We actually may say, while voting on this resolution, I don't agree with this. And that's the real reason that we are focusing on that. And also, it's something we could refer back to. The resolution 12.3.1 or whatever number it's going to be would be a focal point voted on, and it will be discussion. And I'm not saying everybody's going to agree on it. I think John has a good point. He made some very good points dealing with the farm island ware that he didn't agree with. So at the meeting with the resolution, he could bring those points out.
I'm sorry, in connection with that, I guess any other commentary could be part of the official record that, is a
absolutely
sub-record, so to speak, of the whatever document may get passed.
Right. So basically, whatever the document out,
Voted down.
discussion at the minutes definitely be part of it. So yeah, I agree. The minutes will be part of it, and basically anything that comes out of that resolution to be voted on, it'll be a part of the record. So that's where we're at. And I at one point, the DEP is going to be at our March meeting too. Hopefully you can make it too. So hopefully all these information will be there in March. Also in September, we're probably going to target a meeting in September. Try to get DEP to come to our meetings, but if they can't, they are more than welcome to meet with our executive board, and they had reached the same thing. I think next time when we do it, we're going to ask the Army Corps to be there too. So Senator Bateman has more than welcomed us to use his office. So hopefully, if 6 months from now, we can meet with them again, meet with the Army Corps, and that way we get a lot of these questions. Well, when we do have that meeting set, we'll bring it to this meeting, make sure we have any residents' questions, and bring those questions back. So I think by April, hopefully we'll have those, the resolution and the minutes from it with more detailed information, but also the DEP and you will be at the next March meeting too. So a lot of that is basically covered in those we went through, but no lie, out of the 2.5 hour meeting, 1 hour was spent on Zarapath. And it was a very long part of the meeting. And funding was the other, I would say, that was a major part of it. The only other part that I'd like to say that came out of the meeting that may influence you is the senator felt that there's got to be better use of Blue Acres and Green Acres funding, that even if we can't get Army Corps funding, we've got to start looking into those fundings too, to the point where we could help towns with purchase of homes, purchase of lots, combining it with the Blue Acres and Green Acres. And it's something that, as a commission, we all sat up and said, yes, we agree with that.
I think it was Assemblyman, I think it was Assemblyman Chitterelli who was, we kept pushing that number of 3.8, 3.8, 3.8. And he came back and says, what if we got 3.8 in Blue Acres funding that wouldn't go to you, but would go to buying out some of these homes? And we all jumped up and said, go find it. You know, the more the better. Either to raise the homes or purchase property. They are very anxious to get the Blue Acres dollars rolling. I know the county started with it last
Right.
year or so.
So that's another part that will go with you. It's a catch-22.
Well, that wouldn't have anything.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. There is a catch-22
Yeah.
because the more houses we remove, the less chance of you showing the business model to work.
Right.
The return of investment.
So the reason that we maybe sound like we're pushing you, because we really need to get your study done, because if the Blue Acres and the Green Acres funds do come in, we want to make sure the study is done before any more additional homes are bought and torn down, because it has an impact on your study. So we're kind of pushing that study part of it. And then, of course, after the study is done, even if it's done December of this year, then we have to find the
Or once we
150.
have the three alternatives, even if the study's not finalized, you'll still have a better picture on
No,
whether.
But the
if we're go-
concern is if we move ahead, if we have the opportunity,
Right.
excuse me, if we have the opportunity to move ahead with the Blue Acres money
Right.
and get some relief for some of these folks, that would mean that your return of investment drops significantly so that this whole thing's a waste of time. You're not going to do it.
Unless
So
we
we're
go-
we're walking a fine timeline here that we need you guys to pick up the pace a little bit.
Right. Anybody else have comments for David? All right. We'll go through the old business. David, you stay around for a little while. We'll get the public portion going right away. Old business, the state task force, we are at the meeting and it's still not voted on. We thought it would be a great help if they could get that to vote on, and the commission would be representing in the state. Currently, the names are the mayor of Manville, the mayor of Franklin, and myself are the names that were referred to the state for the statewide flood commission. So hopefully we could get that going, and that way we would have a voice down in Trenton too. Status of Raritan joining it. So actually, there was an email I got, and the person asked, did we ever do a official invitation? Kevin, did we ever? I don't think we ever did do an official one to Raritan, did we?
I think we did.
We did?
If that's holding them up, I'll be happy to do another.
All right. What I'm going to do, so we can finally put this to bed, is can I have a motion to send an official invitation to Raritan to join the commission? All in favor?
Aye.
Kevin,
I'll handle it.
you handle it?
Yes.
And say it was actually a motion and approved by the whole commission this time, because it kind of, and if they come back, no, I'll understand. It's just that I want to put all this to rest. Okay, also, for the last month, I've been talking to people at the county, trying to get a very important part of our commission settled. We need a web page. We have money set aside for somebody to develop it, but we need a back-end server. We're talking to the freeholder board. We have to talk to the full board to get that approval. Also, we need an email site and we need a phone contact. I have reached to the secretary of the freeholder board. She has come back to me and is setting up a meeting for our executive board to meet with the freeholders to try to get that resolved and hopefully get that back-end system. That would be a great help for us at no cost. And then the main thing there is no cost. So we could actually put some of our money into the development of the webpage and get that going forward and with email accounts. Funding for alternative funding grants. At this point, is there anybody on the commission that would like to lead this grant writing committee? You have to say tonight, if you could email me, it'd be great. I think it's gonna be a great opportunity for us, but I think it was very clear that we need a person, a go-to person that will work with, even if we get a paid grant writer, we need a person and a committee that would be doing it. So I think it would be a great opportunity. So if you can email me or volunteer, it would be great. I see some smiles. I think, yeah, over the next month, if you can get me by March 16th, it'd be great, because I'd like to announce that person at the 16th meeting. Workshop at RVCC. Once again, I have the agenda I gave out. This is a draft agenda. It's Dr. Shaw has put quite an elaborate agenda together. We have 6 outstanding speakers, plus we're going to have tables. Like I said, DEPs are going to be there, Army Corps are going to be there, hopefully. Red Cross is going to be there, County OEM, CERT's going to be there. I have a friend that I hopefully grab him, and he'll show up as a CERT representative there. And so hopefully we have all these things, not only for flooding, but also for preparativeness. And this is going to be our first one, and I'm really looking forward to this. And hopefully we get some representative from our state and federal representative. If not, hopefully we get a petition sent to them to show that we are doing it. We will be providing a light lunch, so if you just want even a light lunch, come out, listen to the speakers. Light lunch. Also, with that, if you want to see it before you leave, this is the small version of the map. I'm going to be making a very large version of it, so that's the map that the EP gave us. Goals and objectives. Dan was good enough, and some of the other people on the executive board, to give me goals and objectives for this year. A lot of it is fundamentals. Getting contact information. Do we have a logo letterhead? No, we don't have one of those. So we have to look into that. So anybody have any ideas? Send it to me. Also, I'm trying to touch base with Dr. Shaw and see if she has people at Rutgers and also at RVCC that maybe could help us with that. That way we could have letterheads made, envelopes made. Also, when we go to these conferences, in and outside, we could actually give business cards. When we do get an email address and we do get phone numbers and we do have a web page with our Facebook, get business cards made so we can actually hand them out so people can contact us. What is our most important plan, accomplishment, and goals for this year? We know with the Army Corps, the workshop was one of them, and making contacts. Those are 3 of them that I think are very important, that we have a better communications going out this year. What is our main message that we want to get out as a commission? And how can we get people to act on our message? So basically, when we say something, how do we reach out and get the action to happen after what we plan on? And we have to work on better working relationships with our representatives. Those are all good goals, and they're achievable because we didn't, I don't think, reach too far. A lot of it's very fundamental. And we also have old business.
Chair, I guess the only question I have is, how do we know who's showing up to the seminar, other than them showing up that day?
We are, Dr. Shaw is doing we budgeted money for advertising. In there is an RVC, response,
Okay.
and it's going back to Rutgers, because they have the power to take the RVC, responses. We really don't have a spot to bring all the responses back. We're estimating 100 people, just by the number of towns and the people we've contacted, from Rutgers, RVCC, from each town, environmental committee, from each town here, from Rutgers giving it to their students, teachers, RVCC giving it to their students, even a representative from Stevens, which was a nice surprise, contacted me wanting to find about the workshop. So we're estimating around 100 people. We're hoping that is a real number. My biggest fear is on March 16th, it's a sunny, warm, the very first sunny, warm day of the year. And people go play golf and do other things that will impact us. We have no control of that. So the 2 advertisements are going out, and Rutgers is also making the advertisement, that when we send it out, they're making a very flashy advertisement. So with that. Next year, if and when we do this, we have to plan a little bit farther ahead. Also try to get envelopes and tickets and a little bit more plan on, we know the exact number. And also, we found out, one of the suggestions is contact the Weather Channel, only to find out one of the head meteorologists from the Weather Channel happens to live in the town of Somerville. We're a little bit too late this year to get him, but hopefully we could talk to him to get the Weather Channel at the conference next year, so we give from their point of view, how does the weather impact our area and flooding? So hopefully for this year, it's a success that we're getting our message out, and that was one of our goals. Next year, I think, oh, I forgot the most important thing, especially for you. What we decided is that going forward, if we do this every year, the chairperson of the workshop should be the vice chair. Oh, good. We voted on it. You weren't there when we voted on it, so we.
So what happens when you miss a meeting?
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Chairman?
Fine.
So what we're going to do going forward, one of the responsibilities of the vice chair will be to lead this, because you've got to plan it almost a year in advance.
No
And
problem.
we're finding it out.
I'll start planning for next year.
Okay, excellent. Well, we got a lot of context this
That's
year.
fine.
Mr. Chairman?
And I won't miss another meeting.
Yes.
Could we, I don't know if it's maybe already been done, but send out newsflash to all the clerks, town clerks, because they seem to know
idea.
Yes.
how to distribute. I know our clerk would make sure it got to all of our environmental.
I just got it today, and I plan to have our secretary, Kevin was going to give our secretary the email addresses for every town in Somerset
It's a
County.
generic reminder.
Yeah, and
just
so we have any
rep-
reminders, that way we have somebody to send
To-
to. Like,
Distribute it accordingly
Right.
to all your
I mean,
members, or
I mean,
any, I don't know, some of them have bulletin boards via the local
Ex-
public access, et cetera.
The other thing our secretary may want to do is reach out to the Somerset County Governing Officials Association, because they do have a mailing list of all the elected folks that goes out once a month, so they may be able to distribute it for you too.
For the governing, yeah, then the clerks might be able to get it more out to some
To
of
the
the
residents.
citizen-
Right,
residents that get
citizens.
involved in some of these
And that's what we really
indirectly
want. We
with
want the
these
residents-
conservation committees.
Right, exactly. I don't know if you got a copy of it, I have it here, and I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I was just looking it over.
Okay.
Great program.
And I did talk to, I mean, Kevin's good enough, I did talk to Anne Marie, so I have an opportunity to talk to a lot of the towns already, but you're right, if we can get this out to hit the towns,
know.
that's where the main point is.
When is the final piece due?
This is it.
But what about their RSVP then? That's,
Oh, is there an RSVP?
well, we just
If
discussed.
there is part of it, it would be tagged onto
Okay,
this.
well, I'll add to it, right,
announcement.
because it is going back to records. Okay.
So that'd be a good way to.
Okay.
Maybe it'll get some.
All right, I'll add that to it. You're right, that's not on this QA, that's just the agenda part, it's a part of the email. So, I'll get the RSVP part and send it out to all the boroughs.
Well, you
forgot
said- I
that.
mean, I'm the president of the Clerks Association.
Oh,
You
okay.
Just get it to me and I'll hand it.
All right, I
There
get
you
it to you.
go.
Yeah, it's in my email. Kevin, I'll send it to you tomorrow. It basically came with this letter, and it basically had RSVP
Okay.
to Rutgers. We agreed that they were better equipped to handle their responses. Okay, new business. Anything for new business? All right. I need a motion to open for public portion. Second.
Second Rocky Hill.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Please come up to the mic, state your name and address. If you could spell your last name, it'd be a great help for our secretary. And please keep to right around 5 minutes, and we'll try to respond as quickly as possible.
Michael Chabra, 19 Unca Street, Manville, New Jersey, CHABRA. Just a couple questions. In your meeting with Senator Bateman, he told you that none of this Sandy money can be spent on Irene victims or projects?
He did not tell us, DEP did.
Well, my understanding from Washington after it was voted on
Sandy.
is $9 billion was supposed to come from this Sandy appropriation to go towards Irene and other flooding events that has happened on the East Coast, including New Jersey. Now, I'm confused by that because it was reported in the New York Times and the Star Ledger, the same thing I'm saying to you now. And it was also specified that the governor could not just earmark all this money to the beaches and to Sandy. So a portion of this was supposed to be.
I read the exact same thing you read. I walked into that meeting, guns loaded, saying there's money coming and we need it for this. Basically what we said at the last meeting about we would have wasted the 3.8 or whatever it is that's been spent already if we don't get the additional funding, and that there's Alaskan fisheries in this goofy thing and all this other stuff. And they came back and said, to their knowledge, and they would go back and revisit it because we were pretty adamant about it. To their knowledge, it was Sandy only. And we did confront them with exactly what you just said, is this is what we told them. And I said, my understanding is the reason it got held up so long is they were fighting over that particular piece of it, all the things that got tacked on. And in the end, they let it go, so go find us some money. And they said they would look. But as of right now, their understanding when we were in the room for that meeting was that it was Sandy only, and they were going to go back and look for us. Because I read the exact same thing you did.
Okay.
Flood preventative and flood mitigation, we understood, walking in the meeting, that meant the state of New Jersey flood preventative and flood mitigation.
Yeah, but it was also guaranteed in that bill, that $9 billion would not be spent on Sandy.
Well, and that it would be used for flood area mitigation.
Right.
I read the exact same thing you did,
Okay.
and I confronted them with it, and they said they would go back and look. But at that particular time, their understanding of what had been approved, SR 500, was that the number?
I
Whatever it
believe
was,
so.
yeah. One of the guys was really familiar with it and came and said, that's not part of it. And we all agreed that we had heard different and they needed to go check.
The other thing is, anybody reach out to the governor's office or anybody to have a representative here at this next event? Because, you know, they broadcast, he's on the radio at 7 o'clock broadcasting his support for everything, but all I've heard was about Sandy, and I'm tired of it.
You know,
that my heart doesn't go out to anybody, but Irene victims, Hurricane Floyd victims, Manville victims, everybody in your community, you feel like you got stepped on because, you know, granted, everybody's concerned about the beach and going there and the money coming in, but they've spent millions and millions of dollars wasted already what they did down there. I mean, I'm just making a statement. I know
Okay,
there's
no,
concern.
it's not, it's actually, the point is, to answer your question, I don't know if we actually thought about having the governor's office at one of these meetings or the Raritan Valley thing, but I will say this. As a mayor, I do get occasional phone calls from the governor's office, and about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I got a call from Rich DeRose in the governor's office asking, is there anything we can do for you? How are you doing? And the first thing I said is $3.8 million from Manville out of that $50 billion that's coming because we need to do it. And he kind of looked on the phone, he kind of paused for a second, and it sounded like he didn't understand why I was asking for Manville.
Yeah.
And then he mentioned that Angelo had made the same request. So the governor's office is involved. They're trying to do what they can. They understand we need it. I just never really thought to invite them here for this, but we should.
Yeah,
We absolutely should.
Yeah, for the 16th, I will try to get contacts. I'm not a mayor or a council person, so I'll reach out to my counterparts that are, and I'll see if I can get contacts, because I know Angelo has already done it, you have already done it, and have already reached out to the governor's office about that funding. And we're going to have a letter that Dan put together, which is going to the governor's office.
Okay, and the last thing is, how much money have we spent already on this report for Army Corps of Engineers?
I think he said 3.8, roughly.
Okay.
No, 2.3.
Okay. Do we have, or your commission have, one piece of paper of what has been produced for that amount of money?
The answer is no.
But that doesn't make sense to me as a taxpayer or as anybody spending a dollar. We should have something physically written down, or an outline was written down for every penny we waste.
You're 100% right, and we did in that meeting with the LD16 folks and DEP, we made the point very loudly that if we don't come up with the other 3.8, the money that was, and we did this in the last meeting, we spoke about it, I asked this question very directly of David. If we do not come up with additional funding, everything that's been spent is a waste of taxpayers' money.
Well, it's already been
Right.
pointed out by this fella back at the first meeting, is that he has to spend a lot of this money redoing what was done since 1999. So we're wasting money, but we still have not one piece of paper, you people as a commission or any town, of what they've spent that, I don't care if it's $1 million, $2 million, we should have something for it. I mean, as a business person or a town official, you wouldn't take that. You want some physical thing, what you're spending your money for.
And we did do that at the meeting. We made our point very clear. We can't do a project without a project plan and what has been spent and what has to be spent.
But this is the same question that I'm asking
okay.
you now, is the same question I asked when he was in Manville. We still have not one
Well,
piece of paper.
and you did hear something different, and I'm not throwing you under the bus. Trust me on this one. But David said at the last couple of meetings that he could not release this information because the DEP was the one that had to release it. And now they've spoken. We went in there and we told them that we couldn't get any information unless they spoke to him, and he's now allowed to give it to us.
But now, as you have heard, you
Which is a
can't
step in
even
the right
get the
direction.
same numbers.
Okay.
I mean, we heard tonight, you
But we're-
can't even agree on
right.
the same number.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bob?
Bob Kaminsky, 10 Liberty Street, Lost Valley.
My last name?
Kaminski. All right, 2 points. I appreciate you talking about the Island Farm Weir. I keep hearing this statement that it has no effect under high water. Of course, it's underwater. Nothing's going to affect high water. What I'm trying to stress is when it's not there and the rivers are lowered, we have an extra 4 to 6 hours before the waters raise. The water in 99, in 08, in Irene, sat on my land for 3 hours. Guess what? If the weir wasn't there, I and another 100, 150 homes would not have flood because there would have been extra time for more water to go down before it came up to the level it is now. That's my point with the Island Farm Weir. Okay? Low water flooding that leads to high water doesn't exist as often. Today is a prime example. We had 1.5 inches of rain over a 20-hour period. The river at my house, Frank, my pier is under because the water is already up to begin with. Sunnymead Road is about ready to get barricaded and will be tonight if we get the hard 1.5 inches rain. We're talking 3 inches of rain and we're closing roads already. You know? That's what's going on. The other point, yes, the entire world is aware of Sandy, throwing billions of dollars at Sandy because they're an income, and we need the revenue. Take that point and make it for Manville. Every time Manville gets flood, it costs you money. More than it takes in from the residents of the valley. Take 10 years of income from the valley. Take the 10 years of expenses for the valley to be rebuilt and rebuilt and rebuilt, and you got a rusty car.
Same points, Bob. We appreciate that. And it's not only Manville. Every time it floods, it impacts the county because of the county expense. I agree. Next.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Ross Canish, 671 Huff Avenue, Manville, SKIRKANISH. It's not so much a question, because I want to, have your support and maybe your help in getting the bill introduced that would make all new construction impervious to any storm runoff within a 20-mile radius of the flood zone. I want to write to Congress. Well, I talked to Congressman Rush Holt already. I'd like to, send a letter out to Assemblywoman Donna Simon, Kit Bateman, and freeholders. With your help, I just want to get that going.
Yeah.
Can you send us a copy of what you're doing so we can review it?
Yes, I will.
I mean, before we commit to it, we obviously need to.
Oh, yes, I want to actually work with Mayor Andrew Corradino on this too. And I just want to thank all you for coming out, and you're doing a great job, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Good evening, Commissioner. Rich Onderko, 921 Lewis Street in Manville, Onderko. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I wasted my gas getting here, so I'm going to speak. You were at the meeting with the DEP. When and where was that meeting held?
That was held in Senator Bateman's office 2 weeks ago.
Do you have a date?
It was a Tuesday.
have it in my calendar. Hold on.
Yeah, I know, I have it on my computer, my phone, I turned it off. 12th? Yes, the 12th.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Who attended?
It was attended by 5 DEP members.
I have their names.
Is this an inquisition or a question?
I got their first names written down. I have their full cards on my minutes, which I don't have with me. John, Larry, Dennis, Mark, and David were the representatives from the DEP.
Was that
Ed,
first
Angelo.
names or last names?
I don't have the last names with me right now. It's in my typed up minutes.
Can you get me that?
When I present it to the full commission, yes. It's going to be presented in the full commission report.
Why wasn't that meeting open to the public?
It was an executive board meeting to ask questions.
Didn't violate any sunshine laws?
No, it did not. And you had Ed, Angelo, John,
And Angelo, John, you,
and Kevin.
and Kevin, right?
Yeah, Kevin. That was the executive board.
I should have stayed home tonight like the mayor. I would have been less aggravated.
It was 2.5 hours long. It started at 4:30 and it ended around, 6.
Commissioner, we have a slew of photos. Do you want them as a part of your official public record? Just to show the size of this levee that went from a berm to a levee where we can clearly see, clearly see that the height and the width was significantly increased. Would you like photos?
The DP did bring photos with us when we were at that meeting. They presented all their photos to us. And that will.
So are you saying that, I'm asking you this, Commissioner, because you're from Manville. Are you saying that that levee today is the same size it was in 1999?
The information that was provided to us.
Yes or no?
Well, I'm just going to tell you what the information that was provided to us basically said it is 1990, the year 2000 survey, it was 41 feet. And at the end of when they're done with this project, it will be 41 feet. And in 1947, it was 41 feet.
So are you saying in 1999, when that levee got topped, and got topped in Hurricane Irene, it's the same height as it was today? So why did they have to bring in thousands of trucks of dirt to reinforce it and make it higher?
The story for that is they did what you're saying is true. They came in and topped it. They put more dirt there with anybody, but in the meantime, they've had to remove that dirt to make it the same size. And they've had actually a road, which if you look at the road, it looks like another levee almost that goes down from the levee. They're going to have to remove that dirt too.
The levee it went from a berm to a levee, okay? And I don't know, what's going on, but the truth is we have visual photographic proof of this. So you could all sit up there and look at me like, why is this guy back? Okay? We just may. Because these residents down there live down there, and they're concerned over their homes and the amount of flood water that could be pushed in now. So we have a ton of questions for the DEP, but we can't seem to get answers.
Your questions are actually brought up to the DEP.
Okay, so
I think they're going to be represented next month, right?
Yeah, they'll be at the March meeting.
So we were told at a council meeting that this project was on private property and that they could do whatever they wanted. Is that true?
That was not presented as that way. It was, Lazarapath is working with the DEP, the county, and the Franklin Township to resolve this, to make it match the way it was prior to.
How is this project classified with the NJDEP? Because I don't know if you guys are familiar with the statutes that are on the books. Okay, but I have a copy of it here. It's called Flood Hazard Area Control Act Rules, Statutory Authority. Okay, these are the laws that we have to abide by.
One of the
So how is this project classified with the NJDEP? Is it a flood control project or is it not?
I'm not sure. I do know that one of those names, and when he gets the last name, I'm not sure which one
Yes.
it was because I don't have them with me.
Mr. Chairman.
Is the actual enforcement portion
Right, there's actually an enforcement official there.
from DEP.
DEP.
And they claim that they have been to Zarapath. Zarapath is cooperating. They are bringing it back down to where it's supposed to be. They do have the measurements. They have actually, they did have the dirt removed.
Who's going to tell us that it has no adverse effect to Manville?
We would basically you have to bring the professionals in.
And who's going to do that?
You have to bring the DEP in, you have to bring in the state experts in, you have to bring the local county ones in, and the local township. You have to bring everybody that knows where it was and where it's been. And any kind of study that is done to measure flow of water has to be incorporated in that study. So basically.
So they do not think that this is a obstruction in a floodway?
They said it's in the same impact it was in 1947 when it was put up.
No.
The same impact.
If you believe that, Frank, you're wasting your time.
The reason.
Have a good night.
Thank you. This is basically the steps we're going through. We're doing a minutes and talking to them, and then we'll have a resolution, and we could have a discussion over that. But there was a lot of good points. John made good points at the meeting. Ed did, and Angela. We all did try to compete to compare our notes with them that we thought. So is it done? No. This is why we're having minutes and the information. And in those minutes, we'll have each person's name.
Frank, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just pass on what DEP's representation was. They have a survey, now there's a story behind the survey, but they have a survey that says that the height of that levee was 41 feet. And their position is that the folks at Zarapath are permitted to return that levee to the height of 41 feet.
Correct.
Correct.
No, I can say the township, we have aerial photography from 2002 that shows it at 41 feet.
So.
And again, you know, you're shooting the messenger here. We hear you out, we hear your opinion, we go to DEP, we ask the question, we hear their side of it. You two may not agree, but it doesn't make us wrong. We're trying to come to some conclusion and figure out what to do about it.
Right. That's our goal, is to get all the information from all sides. And probably in April, we'll have a presentation, a resolution, the minutes, and at that point, if you want to send me pictures, I'll add the pictures to the report. Next.
It may have to be separate.
Separate, right.
Have to be separate from that, right.
From the Army, I mean, from the DEP.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Real quickly, so can we, if agreed, take the approach that any authenticated photographs, whether it's from the town, residents, DEP, et cetera, that anything that be authenticated be part of the final record?
Right.
So maybe it will provide some clarity ultimately in a few months when you're saying we could put some closure, and how do I want to put it, the evidence from all parties' opinions, which will hopefully will start to be in sync, but nonetheless, it will be out there for everybody to review as a permanent record from this commission.
I agree. What we'll probably do is have the pictures from the DEP, and probably if they're willing to give us pictures by April, we'll have a different group of pictures saying these are citizens' pictures from the angle of, if they're from Manville or from a different view, where are they from? That way, you're right, for the total report, we'll have a report from the DEP, and basically what they perceive and picture-wise, and then we will have the pictures and explanation, and a recording of that night, what the citizens are.
And I don't know technically or legally how we go about it, but I'm sure anything that we can legally provide through our technology that our engineering department would I assume, be willing to. But obviously Scott can comment better on that.
The topography that's from that 2002 aerial is incorporated into the plans that they provided to the state when they made their submission.
Then do we have anything, or do we routinely get anything of that area updated since, whether it's specifically
That's the last
targeting
time
that
we
or
had
just
the
a
town
general
flown.
area?
That's
Sorry?
the last time we had the town flown, 2002.
Okay.
So we'll.
And and as far as that 41 foot, people keep throwing that around. That is just, that was where it was originally built to 41 feet. It's also coincidentally the 1% flood, 100-year flood elevation. And it's also the elevation of the canal towpath.
Right. So
I think you kind of said at one point that it didn't matter if it was built higher. And that's a fact. In 99, it flooded from the towpath. It didn't go over the levee, according to information that was provided to me.
Same point they made at the meeting, that basically you could put that 60 feet high, it's going to find the lowest point, which is the towpath, which is 41 feet, so it'll go around it and flood it inside of it. So there's no benefit for Zarapath to build that any higher. And if it's a 500-year flood, it's going to flood it.
Yeah.
It'll go over the top.
It'll go over the top.
So is that what the DEP was suggesting?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so whenever these DEP suggestions come out there, are there kind of certain comments, whatever committee member or township could maybe reflect on it to kind of verify what's being suggested, or maybe expound on it to, show any other ways that can be looked at, and again, all that will be laid out for people to
And I
interpret
thi-
how they want.
I think that's the purpose of doing it as a report that's going to be, as a resolution that's going to come, so that each of the towns will have it to take back.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll include most of this. I'm
Mhm.
just, as I'm hearing this and obviously watching it unfold now for most of last year, I just, as it's coming to me, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
Thank
think
you.
that's all the information on the names, and that's why I didn't deliver it this week. We could have turned around in 2 weeks, sent out a minute.
Is it you?
Oh, no. Let's try. We could have turned around rapidly and put out a report, but the key to this report is we want the information to be correct. So what I put in that minutes, the first thing we'll do, we're going to send it to all 6 members of the DEP. Say, is this information correct? And then what we're going to do is send it to most likely Franklin and Manville, so their engineers can look at it and say, all right, from the Manville and Franklin side, do you see the same information? More important is the Franklin side, because they have their information, it's in their township. And then finally, we have to get information from the county, just to double check that you did check the dirt and it's clean. In which at this point, they did come back and say it's clean. They said the report's massive, we're not gonna go and get the report, but if Summers County Board of Health says the dirt is now clean, because they had them remove the dirty dirt, we'll believe that. But all that should be in the report, connected to the resolution, and during that discussion, if the residents have suggestions and comments, that's what we'll add it to the minutes. We want to make sure all the points are covered. All right. Any other residents?
Danny Greco, 704 Lincoln Avenue, Manville, New Jersey. Couple things. During Irene, I live about 100 yards behind the levee. And after Irene came, I saw it go over the levee. And after that part, probably about 3 weeks later, I noticed this thing started getting higher. And they were doing it at night. And I know where they got the dirt from, and I know what they did with the trees that were there. The trees are under there. And once I got my boat in the water, probably about 10, 11 o'clock at night, they'd have backloaders with dump trucks, with garbage trucks, covering this. And we had sent an email to Mr. Moyer, and he told me, and I made a video of this from my boat, that I was delusional of this operation. Now, this wall is very tall. I don't know what it is in feet, what you're talking, what's 41 feet mean? From here up?
Above mean sea level.
Oh, but as far as the increase in dirt since the 3rd week after the flood has been phenomenal. And when I asked the DEP, Mr. Moyer and a Mr. Jameson, they told me they don't inspect dirt unless they smell it. So I don't understand, was the dirt really checked? And how much dirt did they get rid of? And where did they put it? And where these people find? You can't dump dirt today.
DEP doesn't check the dirt. Actually, the dirt was checked by the county, the Board of Health, so the dirt was checked.
It was actually, tests were submitted to the Board of Health of the dirt that was brought in. It was found to have.
How much dirt? Do you know?
Excuse me?
How much dirt, cubic feet wise, say? Because all I've seen is dirt come. I see this thing every day. It's right there. And now there's one-way drains on the bottom. And for the first time, there's a big, they used to plant corn there, maybe soybean on the other side of the wall.
Mhm.
It wouldn't flood there in that field till it went over the bank of the millstone on their side. I'm higher where I sit. So when it would go over the bank, it'd fill that field. Well, now, for whatever reason, that field's filling up first. And we haven't had much water. And what are those massive drains there? I don't know. Coming this way. They never had them before.
There were drains there, corrugated iron, steel drains that were put in 1947 that were replaced.
Is that what they said? See, it's all...
They show on the plans,
You know, you really can't win.
I have
You can't.
plans from 1947, and they show that they were supposed to be there.
They have six drainage. They started with six.
Otherwise, it would the water would just fill up like a lake. So when it's...
That's what it did.
When it's not in flood stage, it flows out. When there's water outside the levee, they close.
Right, they said there's 6 outflow gates that were original, but they replaced them with new ones. So they have new six outflow gates, and exactly what you described, that's how they describe them. Basically, if there's water outside of it, it will hold it back, but if the water's raining off the levee, it will run out towards the...
I just don't know how this got done so quickly, and the questions I asked. They even sent me a certified letter prior to the levee being enlarged after, and I wrote back to them, and they never responded. Nothing. And nobody was fined for all these trees that were probably over 40, 50 years old.
They got to replace the trees.
Well, I understand that, but you just can't pull a tree out today.
Right, well, they were caught, and the dirt was basically removed that was found dirty. They had to replace it with clean dirt. The dirt has been verified from the county Board of Health that the dirt is clean. Also, the trees and bushes have to be replaced that were torn out, and the road has to be replaced, taken out.
I think it all was done after the fact, because maybe some people were asking questions and doing something. But I came here, this is on video when you have your meetings. I came here in May of 2012 and asked, I don't know who was on here, but you have a video of it. And I first asked, how could they do this with no permits? And the person that responded said they don't need permits because it's private property. You have it on video. I don't know.
If that was a response, that would be correct. But
Well, I'm just saying, and I didn't say anything further, and then I started to pay more attention to this thing that's being built.
The work began without permits, that's correct.
Right, and they were telling me at the time, oh, we have permits. And then when I got involved with the EPA.
By that time, there were permits.
Well, they made up something, you know, you can make up anything today and write it down as a permit. So I really don't believe a lot of that dirt was taken out. I see dirt coming in, and they're only 100 yards from me. And I know I have a 40-foot deck on the river that's 40 feet off the ground. And Floyd, it came up to the bottom of the deck. Irene, it came up to the top handrail. So I don't know if you people have seen this thing, looked at it. It's big. And I'm not an engineer, but you put that where a lot of water goes, it's going to hold it up. And I don't know in my lifetime if they'll ever even get a shovel in the ground.
Okay, thank you very much.
But that's all I have.
Anybody else in the audience? A motion to close the public portion?
Oh, well, Mr. Chairman, I noticed coming forward.
I know you don't.
She was behind, yeah.
You're hiding from me this time.
Linda Kellner, 631 Bosel Avenue, Lost Valley, Manville. I just have a quick comment, really. Shame on the DEP for allowing them to replace something. Oh, to replace something. Obviously, back in that time, there wasn't the flooding issues that we have today. Okay? And really, they should have really looked into that before they allowed them to say, okay, you can go ahead and rebuild a 41-foot wall when we've had flooding after flooding, many events. Shame on the DEP. You know? I don't know what else to say, but
Very
for
good
us,
point.
it sucks.
We've never made a point like that. We've never said, did you even think about saying no?
Didn't ask.
Never asked that question about not letting them build the 41-foot levee back up.
We were so concerned about the change in height that's been claimed from 41 feet above it, that we were focused on just getting it back to where it's supposed to be? We never asked that question.
No.
Right.
Well,
But I
we need,
mean-
we need to do better on that.
Yeah, I mean, we do know, they can say whatever they want. We've seen it. We've seen it go up. We've seen dirt come in. I've never seen dirt go out. I see the truckloads come in. They're full. You see the tarps over them. I mean, when they're doing it, I don't know. Nobody in our neighborhood sees it. And now we're kind of really paying attention to what's going on over there, as we should. But, yeah, you might want to mention that to them, because shame on them. And if they are able to keep it, then maybe they should pay for the study. Maybe they should determine, okay, then it has no, impact on the Lost Valley section of Manville.
We could actually bring that to the next, if we meet again and say, should be a study sponsored by Zarapath to prove the impact of the flood.
That would be appreciated.
We'll bring that up. That's another very good idea. We didn't bring that point up, that maybe Zarapath should sponsor a study that shows it has no impact on flooding.
Okay. that's
Thank
all I
you.
could ask. Thank you.
Very good point.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Real quickly, I would imagine as part of the whole process of DEP getting involved, there would be, I don't know if they would normally request, but wouldn't there be some paper trail, so to speak, of the dirt removal? Because that's a question that if it keeps coming up over and over again, and just trying to approach this in an objective way, could maybe that, I mean, I don't know if you find that too intrusive, maybe that could be part of a request for the final report, to get some information as far as what was taken, and I don't know if they have to by law, but maybe they would say what company took it and the approximate cubic yards, et cetera.
John?
Whose jurisdiction is it to monitor? Whose jurisdiction is it to monitor the fact that the soil has been taken out? Is that the county health board or Franklin?
It's Franklin's ordinance, the soil import and export permits. It's our ordinance. The county reviews the reports as far as the testing.
Who verified that the dirty soil actually was taken out?
That's being handled by the county. They're the ones that sent them the letter saying that they gave them 180 days to either remove the soil, or they had the option of going to the DEP and getting a waiver.
So I would expect that the county did an inspection, the county health board probably did an inspection. That's probably somewhere in the county health board records as to soil being taken out and then retested. I mean, that's how it should work. And
At the meeting, basically was stated to us, the county checked the dirt and was responsible for the dirt and has cleared the dirt. So, and they said they have a report at the Board of Health. It's quite a large report, they said, so.
maybe we could get a copy of that.
I have copies of all the testing reports.
Oh, okay.
So anything that's public record could be part of the...
Manville already did an Oprah request, and we sent it over to them. So they have a copy of it as well.
But I mean, for what we're ultimately gathering as a commission, all that could be assembled at some point then?
Well, the Oprah request was by Manville on behalf of the commission.
Oh, on behalf of the commission, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't
Instead of
catch
double-
that.
Yeah, it was all scanned in, it's all on a CD, I believe.
So instead of us both paying for it and trying to do it, Manville
Gotcha.
did it.
Okay.
And what we'll do is we'll reach out to, I'll reach out to Gary and Angelo, see if we get information for the April meeting to have it on hand.
And then, separate issue, but wouldn't it be likely that they'd be grandfathered into that 41-foot height regardless of what could legitimately be a question?
True. Yeah.
Which I'm not saying is not something worth fighting or reapproaching, but that to be fair in the analysis.
Makes sense that they'd be going only for 41 feet, and they'd have a very hard time to take that down because they're grandfathered into it, but it wouldn't have been bad for me to, I should have thought about asking, did anybody even ask about taking it down or redoing it, any style?
And
that was, Frank, actually, that actually was, AX maybe slightly off, slightly indirectly. And, that they said that, look, this was something that's been in for a long time, and we permitted it to go back to its original surveyed height. And the impression I had is that if it wasn't there would probably be a positive impact on the other side of the river. On the other hand, the point the DEP made was then Zarapaf is going to get demolished every storm.
Correct.
So, I mean, somewhere there's a balance, and, I mean, I think the Corps of Engineers report going down the road is going to give us some of the best solutions on how to deal with that. And it's a tough situation because, you know, they did something at some point that's having an impact on the other side of the river, and, you know, now, you know, if you take it down, then there's going to be an impact on the Zarapaf community, and, you know, you got one area affected and the other area not affected, and somehow we got to work through it.
The question I know
That's the
that was
overall
asked
picture.
was,
in the
does it
end.
have an input on the study? Did David's study take the Zarapaf into consideration? And I
Right.
think the answer was yes. It's part of the study.
Yeah.
Part of the levee flood wall plan is depending on how high we can go on the Manville side, we actually were going to have to raise the Zarapaf so that there would be no adverse effect on that side.
All right. Any other comments? Oh, Dan, yeah.
What happens to all the other communities up and down the river?
They can't be negatively impacted by our project.
Right.
You could raise the elevation a foot per the state, is that, or you would, the flood elevation, you said negatively impacted.
Right.
By putting the levee up, or anything that would be constructed on the Manville side, it would have an impact on the elevation of the water, and I believe the state only allows a foot, is that
I
correct?
don't think they allow that much. I think they might, in some cases, allow 2/10 or I don't know exactly the rules, but
Is it 2/10?
I just know we can't flood another.
It's correct, yeah, it's 2/10 surcharge, that's correct. All right.
Nice having engineers on the board.
Motion to close the public portion, if there's no further comments.
No more comments? I like to, all right,
Rocky
motion?
Hill, second.
Second. So Franklin made the motion, Rocky Hill, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any comments for the good of the board? All
I
right.
just wanted to thank the board for letting Franklin have the opportunity to host this. We have Councilman Chase, Dr. Chase, who's on our board, and Scott and John, who are our actual members, and myself, as an alternate member. Thank you, and hopefully we'll keep sharing the wealth here with getting it into other towns, and hopefully that will bring in, more dynamic to the whole process here, and more ideas, which is very important. Although I know we see a lot of the same faces, hopefully we'll start to see them and others. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is, I'm going to take only 30 seconds with this. I'm celebrating tonight, and I'm very thankful, and just want to share it. It has nothing to do with the commission, but 20 years ago, and plus about 25 minutes, I was wheeled into an operating room in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and came out with a new heart, and 20-year anniversary, so I'm very thankful to, thank you to those families and the organ donors, so time to celebrate. Thank you.
John, thank you, and thank them, because we wouldn't have you on the flood commission if it wasn't for that, and you've been a great help this year. And again, thanks to Franklin. This was a great experience, and hope we do reach out to more people. I'd like to get more people from the Franklin Township and the surrounding communities to come to these meetings. And that's our goal this year. One of our goals is to reach out to the surrounding towns, and then we have Millstone, we have a meeting in Hillsborough, we have one going to be in Bridgewater too this year, and the county. So hopefully they'll all be met, and please spread the word about the March 16th workshop. It's at RVCC, it's free. It's from 9 till 3. You don't have to be there all day. It should be a great event, and hopefully something positive comes out of it, and I'll send it to Kevin, and we'll send it out to every town so we get it out there, and it should be in the Star Ledger too. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
9:34.
You need this?